Have you ever had to apologize to somebody for something big, something you said, something you did, and you, maybe before you meet them, you play it through in your mind, you imagine how it's going to go. You think through how it is you're going to be able to explain what it is you've done, why it is that you're sorry, and how you're going to make amends and make it all right. Well, that's exactly what Jacob is doing. Remember, for the last few years, he's been working in the fields of his uncle Laban, and he's finally decided he wants to go home. But to go home, he's going to have to apologize to his brother Esau, the brother who he nicked all the stuff, the inheritance and the blessing from by tricking and deceiving and manipulating their blind elderly father. Last week we left just as Jacob had run from his uncle with the strong sheep, the strong goats, his 2 wives, his 2 maidservants, all of his other servants, and all of his sons. Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Dan, Naphtali, Gad, Asher, Issachar, Zebulun, Dinah, and Joseph. And so they're legging it. The only problem is Laban can leg it faster, and he catches up with them. And he says to them, "What are you doing? I can't believe you've pegged it with all of my strong sheep and all of my strong goats. And you've taken some stuff from my house. In fact, you've taken some incredibly important and valuable artifacts." "No, we haven't," says Jacob. "In fact, you can go through all of the bags. You can look in all of the suitcases. You can search all of the camels. We haven't taken any of your precious artifacts. We've only taken stuff that belongs to us." And he winks to his favourite wife, Rachel, who sits down on the bag with all of the precious artifacts in. That's not really that important for this story, but it is important for later on in the story because this family is going to hide some precious things in a bag another time. Anyway, he can't find any of the stuff, so Laban says, "Okay, off with you. Be gone. Goodbye." Jacob and his family go, and they get to a stream, and on the other side of the stream, they know they're going to meet his brother Esau. So Jacob says to everybody, "Look, you go ahead of me. You go ahead of me down the road and present yourself to my brother. When you meet him, give him these 500 sheep and these 500 goats. Give him this money. Present to his family this jewelry. Give him these rich spices and elegant materials from this far off land where we've been living. Show him the cute kids. And then by the time that I get to him, he'll think that I'm a great father, that I'm a powerful person, that I'm actually really nice, and he'll have to forgive me, and we'll have to be reunited as family." And so that's what everybody does. Everybody else starts off ahead of Jacob on the journey. A whole other piece of manipulation and deception on Jacob's part, leaving Jacob on his own for one last night. He's racked internally with guilt and with a desire that this goes right and with worry and with fear. And then this bizarre thing happens, which is totally odd but so important for the rest of our story. Jacob wrestles with a stranger. All night long they wrestle. Nobody can win this battle. Just as it gets to the dawn and the sun is starting to come up, the stranger says to Jacob, "You've got to let me go. There's going to be light and people will see us." And Jacob, who until now has always taken the easy, deceptive option, trying to win a quick, sneaky victory and steal blessings from people, now he refuses to let go. And he says, "I'm not letting go unless you bless me." And so the stranger blesses him. And then the stranger just touches him on the hip socket and knocks his hip socket out of joint, hinting at the fact that maybe the stranger hasn't been using his whole strength up until now. From that day on, Jacob walks with a limp. The stranger begins to go, but before the stranger goes, he turns to Jacob and says, "From now on, you're going to be known by a different name. Your new name is Israel." Israel means wrestles with God. And then the stranger goes. Jacob gets himself together, crosses the stream, walks down the road, and in the distance finally sees his brother Esau. Eventually they get to meet and they embrace in this huge reuniting hug, and they weep and they talk to each other and they say, "Bro, welcome home. I have missed you. Tell me all about your life." Before we do that, what was with all those people that you sent ahead of you? What was with all those cute kids? What was with all those camels and sheep and goats? What was with all those gifts of spices and materials? Was that to try and soften me up? Was that to try and deceive me or manipulate me? You didn't need to do any of that. I love you, your family. And so Jacob and all of his sons and his wives and his servants and his camels and his sheep and his goats and his donkeys find themselves home. So, what did we learn today? Number 1, saying sorry is difficult, but it's always good. Number 2, families have traits, they have habits, they have distinctive rhythms and things that just keep cropping up. Sometimes they're not great things and they're things that we would rather brush under the carpet, but sometimes they can be brilliant things that are worth adding some oomph to. Number 3, the blessing is growing. There's been a promise all the time that God is going to bless everybody in the whole world and speak of his love to them. That blessing seems to have stalled so many times and it's rested until now with a single family. But now, in a wrestling match with God, Jacob has learned that he's going to become a whole people group, a whole nation, not just a family anymore. And through that nation, everybody on earth should be blessed. Number 4, sometimes it's worth wrestling for the good stuff. And prayer is like that. So often we think that I've prayed twice about that. I've prayed for 30 seconds continually about that thing. Surely God should answer it. Well, sometimes a really great way of understanding prayer is wrestling. It doesn't come easy sometimes. Sometimes it's worth investing energy. And sometimes as a result of that wrestling, you limp. In fact, if you ever meet a saint who doesn't limp, who says that their entire life with God has been carefree and easy, they probably haven't worked hard for something brilliant. Number 5, everybody's usable. Even deceptive manipulators can be used by God to show blessing and love to everybody in the world. And if he can use Jacob, there's a good chance he can use me and you.